Good morning, everyone. My name is Rolando Yandelor, and I was assigned to discuss with you ethics and social issues in information system. Our subject is Advanced Management Information System under our Professor Dr. Marmela V. Abante. Sit and enjoy my presentation. Our learning objectives: analyzing business process for an enterprise system, information technology infrastructure. Let's begin with a question. What are the ethical and social issues in information systems? The main ethical, social, and political issue raised by information systems center around information rights and obligations, property rights and obligations, accountability and control, system quality, and quality of life. These are also the five moral dimensions of the information age. So, first will be information rights and obligations. What information rights do individuals and organizations possess with respect to information about themselves? How can they be protected? What obligations do individuals and organizations have concerning this information? Second, property rights. How will traditional intellectual property rights be protected in a digital society in which tracing and accounting for ownership is difficult, and ignoring such property rights is so easy? 3. Accountability and control. Who can and will be held accountable and liable for the harm done to individual and collective information and property rights? Fourth, system quality. What standards of data and system quality should we demand to protect individual rights and the safety of society? And last, the quality of life. What values should be preserved in an information and knowledge-based society? What institutions should we protect from violation? What cultural values and practices are supported by the new information technology? The introduction of new information technology has a ripple effect, raising new ethical, social, and political issues that must be dealt with on the individual, social, and political levels. These issues have five moral dimensions as we have earlier: information rights and obligations, property rights and obligations, system quality, quality of life, and accountability and control. So from this figure 4-1, the relationship between ethical, social, and political issues in an information society is being illustrated. So if you could see there, we are first given a heads up about the meaning of the word polity. So this is a form or process of civil government or constitution. It is used as civic humanist polity, or it could be an organized society, a state as a political entity, and being used as the period in which West Germany was a distinct polity. So as you can see in the illustration, information technology and systems is in the center, and it goes affecting ethical issues for individual, social issues for the society, and then political issues affecting polity. And there are factors around it, which we have mentioned, the five-dimensional factors. So we have information rights and obligations, property rights and obligations, accountability and control, system quality, and the quality of life. So for the better understanding of each. We also have four key technology trends that have heightened the ethical stresses on existing social arrangements and laws. The number one is computing power has doubled every 18 months, allowing growing numbers of organizations to use information systems in their core business processes. This growing dependence on critical systems increases vulnerability to system errors and poor data quality. Second will be advances in data storage techniques have enabled for the multiplying databases on individuals maintained by private and public organizations, making the violation of individual privacy both cheap and effective. Advances in data analysis techniques enable companies and government agencies use profiling to determine detailed information about individuals, habits, and cases and create dossiers of detailed information. Non-obvious relationship awareness, or NORA, is a new data analysis technology that can take data about people from many sources and correlate relationships to find hidden connections to identify potential criminals and terrorists. And last will be advances in networking. Reduce the costs of moving and assessing data, permitting privacy invasions on a vast scale. So this is how it is being illustrated. The non-obvious relationship awareness, or NORA. NORA technology can take information about people from disparate sources and find obscure, non-obvious relationships. It might discover, for example, that an applicant for a job at a casino shares a telephone number with a known criminal and issue an alert to the hiring manager. As you can see there, from the watch list, incident and arrest systems, customer transaction systems, telephone records, then human resource systems, and then being in the center to be standardized. So name, match, merge, then alerted by NORA. So from here, how cookies identify web visitors. This is uh, the part that we're in. The user and server, cookie, and all sort of transaction is being collaborated within the system. So how it is done, the web server reads the user's web browser and then determines the operating system, browser name, version number, internet address, and other information. The server transmits a tiny text file with user identification information called a cookie, which the user's browser receives and stores on the user's computer hard drive. And then when the user returns to the website, the server requests the contents of any cookie it deposited previously in the user's computer. Finally, the web server reads the cookie, identifies the visitor, and calls up data on the user. Cookies have been the backbone of most web analytics tracking and are useful for a number of reasons. Understanding how they work and potential downsides of the basic analytics tracking can be helpful in identifying tracking errors and better describing your data from your analysis. There are a number of forces changing the way that analytics and marketing platform products can interact with first-party and third-party cookies for some browsers. Before implementing any cookie solution, it will be important to understand your business needs and concerns and pick the solution that best aligns with your marketing and website goals. So, at this part, our discussion is the key technology trends that raise ethical issues. So, profiling, the use of computers to combine data from multiple sources and create electronic dossiers of detailed information on individuals. So, we discussed NORA earlier. So, ethical choices are decisions made by individuals who are responsible for the consequences of their actions. Responsibility is a key element and means that you accept the potential costs, duties, and obligations for the decisions you make. Accountability is a feature of systems and social institutions and means mechanisms are in place to determine who took responsible action and who is responsible. Then, lastly, will be liability is a feature of political systems in which a body of laws is in place that permits individuals to recover the damages done to them by other actors, systems, or organizations. Due process is a related feature of law-governed societies and is a process in which laws are known and understood, and there is an ability to appeal to higher authorities to ensure that the laws are applied correctly. The moral dimensions of information systems, information rights, privacy, and freedom in the internal age. Privacy is the claim of individuals to be left alone, free from surveillance or interference from other individuals or organizations, including the state. Most American and European privacy law is based on a regime called Fair Information Practices, first set forth in a report written in 1973 by a federal government advisory committee. So, from the Directive on Data Protection, in Europe, privacy protection is much more stringent than in the United States. Unlike the United States, European countries do not allow businesses to use personally identifiable information without consumers' prior consent. Informed consent can be defined as consent given with knowledge of all the facts needed to make a rational decision. Internet challenges to privacy. Internet technology has posed new challenges for the protection of individual privacy. Information sent over this vast network of networks may pass through many different computer systems before it reaches its final destination. Each of these systems is capable of monitoring, capturing, and storing communications that pass through it. So we discussed earlier about the cookies. It's just an additional information. So just to put more emphasis. Cookies are small text files deposited on a computer hard drive when a user visits to the website. Cookies identify the visitor's web browser software and track visits to the website. Web beacons rather, also called web bugs, are tiny objects invisibly embedded in email messages and web pages that are designed to monitor the behavior of the user visiting a website or sending email. Spyware can secretly install itself on an internet user's computer by piggybacking on larger applications. Once installed, the spyware calls out to websites to send banner ads and other unsolicited material to the user, and it can also report the user's movements on the internet to other computers. Can you imagine that? For property rights, intellectual property is considered to be intangible property created by individuals or corporations. Information technology has made it difficult to protect intellectual property because computerized information can be so easily copied or distributed on networks. Intellectual property is subject to a variety of protections under three different legal traditions: trade secrets, copyright, and patent law. Trade secrets: any intellectual work product, a formula, device, pattern, or compilation of data used for a business purpose can be classified as a trade secret, provided it is not based on information in the public domain. Copyright is a statutory grant that protects creators of intellectual property from having their work copied by others for any purpose during the life of the author, plus an additional 70 years after the author's death. Patents grants the owner an exclusive monopoly on the ideas behind an invention for 20 years. The congressional intent behind patent law was to ensure that inventors of new machines, devices, or methods receive the full financial and other rewards of their labor, and yet make widespread use of the invention possible by providing detailed diagrams for those wishing to use the idea under license from the patent's owner. Lastly, we have system quality. Data quality and system errors. Three principal sources of poor system performance are software bugs and errors, hardware or facility failures caused by natural or other cause, and poor input data quality. The software industry has not yet arrived at testing standards for producing software of acceptable but not perfect performance. As a manager, how to deal with each of these dilemmas? When confronted with, with a situation that seems to present ethical issues, how should you analyze it? The following five-step process should help. First, identify and describe clearly the facts. Find out who did what to whom and where, when, and how. In many instances, you will be surprised at the errors in the initially reported facts, and often you will find that simply getting the facts straight helps define the solution. It also helps to get the opposing parties involved in an ethical dilemma to agree on the facts. Then define the conflict or dilemma and identify the higher order values involved. Ethical, social, and political issues always reference higher values. The parties to a dispute all claim to be pursuing higher values. Example, freedom, privacy, protection of property, and the free enterprise system. Typically, an ethical issue involves a dilemma. Two, diametrically opposed courses of action that support worthwhile values. For example, the chapter ending case study illustrates two competing values: the need to protect citizens from terrorist acts and the need to protect individual privacy. The next move will be identify the stakeholders. Every ethical, social, and political issue has stakeholders, players in the game who have an interest in the outcome, who have invested in the situation, and usually who have vocal opinions. Find out the identity of these groups and what they want. This will be useful later when designing a solution. Identify the options that you can reasonably take. You may find that none of the options satisfy all the interests involved, but that some options do a better job than others. Sometimes, arriving at a good or ethical solution may not always be a balancing of consequences to stakeholders. Then, identify the potential consequences of your options. Some options may be ethically correct, but disastrous from other points of view. Other options may work in one instance but not in other similar instances. Always ask yourself, what if I choose this option consistently over time? So, this part is just a repetition for the ethics in an information society. So, let me just have the definition of ethics. It is a concern of humans who have freedom of choice. Ethics is about individual choice. When faced with alternative course of action, what is the correct moral choice? What are the main features of ethical choice? And we have already have it like earlier, basic concepts: responsibility, accountability, and liability. So for ethical analysis, when confronted with a situation that seems to present ethical issues, as earlier we have that, the following five-step process should help. One, identify and describe clearly the facts. Define the conflict or dilemma and identify the higher order values involved. Then identify the stakeholders, identify the options that you can reasonably take, and then identify the potential consequences of your actions. For candidate ethical principles, once your analysis is complete, what ethical principles, rules should you use to make a decision? What higher order values should inform your judgment? Although you are the only one who can decide which among many ethical principles you will follow and how you will prioritize them, it is helpful to consider some ethical principles with deep roots in many cultures that have survived throughout the recorded history. Like, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, the golden rule. Putting yourself into the place of others and thinking of yourself as the object of the decision can help you think about fairness in decision making. If an action is not right for everyone to take, it is not right for anyone. Ask yourself, if everyone did this, could the organization or society survive? If an action cannot be taken repeatedly, it is not right to take at all. This is the slippery slope rule. An action may bring about a small change now that is acceptable, but if repeated, will bring unacceptable changes in the long run. In the vernacular, it might be stated as, once started down a slippery path, you may not be able to stop. Take the action that achieves the higher or greater value. This rule assumes you can prioritize values in a rank order and understand the consequences of various courses of action. This is the utilitarian principle. Take the action that produces the least harm or the least potential cost. Risk aversion principle. Some actions have extremely high failure costs of very low probability. Probabil- uh, Probability. Example, building a nuclear generating facility in an urban area, or extreme high failure costs of moderate probability, speeding and automobile accidents. Avoid these high failure cost actions, paying greater attention obviously to high failure cost potential of moderate to high probability. Assume that virtually all tangible and intangible objects are owned by someone else unless there is a specific declaration otherwise. This is the ethical no free lunch rule. If something someone else has created is useful to you, it has value, and you should assume the creator wants compensation for this work. Although these ethical rules cannot always be guides to action, actions that do not easily pass these rules deserve some very close attention and a great deal of caution. The appearance of unethical behavior may do as much harm to you and your company as actual unethical behavior. Information system ethics. Ethics refers to rules of right and wrong that people use to make choices to guide their behaviors. We are already on the concluding part. Ethics in MIS or management information systems seek to protect and safeguard individuals and society by using information systems responsibly. Most professions usually have denied a code of ethics or code of conduct guidelines that all professionals affiliated with the profession must adhere to. In a nutshell, a code of ethics make individuals acting on their free will responsible and accountable for their actions. An example of a code of ethics for MIS professionals can be found on the British Computer Society website. This Information Communication Technology ICT policy. An ICT policy is a set of guidelines that defines how an organization should use information technology and information systems responsibly.